Yeah, no.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's like nowadays with cassettes and 8-tracks.
Okay.
All that stuff is.
Call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Tuesday, January 24th, 2017. We'd like to start today with the pledge.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads for a prayer.
Lord, thank you for the opportunity to gather to do the good of public service. Thank you for the beautiful day and all of the many blessings that you bring upon us. As we go about doing our jobs and conducting the business for on behalf of the citizens of Seneca County, guide us and lead us with your wisdom, though thy will be done. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Kirschner, Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Stacy.
Here.
It's just this.
Signing of the journal.
We have to approve.
I'll accept a motion to approve the digital recording of the previous board session, which was January 12th of 2017.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Guess there weren't any, right? Adjustments?
I would give under new business, a brief update from the County Commissioners Association of Ohio.
Okay.
Board meeting I was at Friday, and then just a couple of highlights on, or updates from the Fall Story Economic Development Corp's meeting as well.
Okay.
I would like to add the Homelessness Coalition update.
Oh, okay.
Can we put our board session, we need to discuss our board session for
Work session for Thursday.
Yep.
Okay. Do we want to do, what's that? Stacy again? Do we want to do our guest now?
Oh, it's, yeah, do you want to do your?
Sure. We can do that. Okay. Charlene Watkins, Seneca Regional Planning Commission.
We have Charlene Watkins, Seneca Regional Planning Commission, and she has her guest today,
Elizabeth Baxter, Ohio Development Services Agency.
Elizabeth Baxter, Ohio
Development Services Agency. Yes.
And what, are you at the governor's office, or what?
No, it's just a different state agency, and I'm out of the Office of Community Development. So it's a sub-office within the state agency.
Okay,
And we're based in Columbus.
okay.
We have handouts today.
Oh, sure.
Oh, color.
We're here to present the Community Development Block Grant for FY17. Some information on that, as well as the Community Development Implementation Strategy. Some information on that as well. And a little bit of information on the set-aside funds for the Community Development Block Grant. I do have some extras if anybody would like extra copies. I'm not sure, Elizabeth, I think brought it
I
up for the
have-
press and me and the commissioners.
An extra, and then I think I have 2 extras. So I have this one and one more. If anybody wants a copy?
Yeah. Sure. Thank you very much.
I will give you a copy, Timmy.
Okay, awesome. Thank you
I
so
know
much.
how much you like info.
I love info. I'm just an
You
info
have
guy.
So what we'll start with is where we're at and what we're doing for the county. The state has went to a 2-year program for the CDBG grant.
We're proposing a 2-year funding cycle for CDBG, which typically we release funding annually to our communities through the allocation program. So that was a set funds that, each community would receive every year. So because funds are dwindling from HUD and construction costs keep going up through just the history of time, we are proposing to make a more impactful projects, better programming for our grantees, the allocation program to go to a 2-year cycle. So what that means is each community would get a lump sum to spend within 2 years. So for instance, Seneca County had, I think, did you guys
We
hold?
carried over 16.
So it would be like if you would carry over and then apply for just 17. You'd get a 2-year lump sum of funding.
So community defined as any
The
public entity?
county. So we consider, for state purposes and through HUD, we consider our grantee is Seneca County. So we give Seneca County, say, and don't quote these numbers, but we give you guys a lump sum of say $100,000, and you can then go through and divvy up the dollars in ways that you see fit that matches the community development block grant program eligibility and criteria. So for all of the small communities within Seneca County, some nonprofit groups, social service agencies, things like that, typically the program is geared to assist LMI individuals or individual.
LMI.
I'm sorry.
Income.
Low-income
I'm new.
individuals. Yes. I'm sorry.
And a slow learner. so.
Low to moderate income individuals or individuals that have disabilities or limitations. So the dollars are meant to service that clientele. Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the cutoff or is it an average household income number?
Right. So there are different ways that you can qualify groups of individuals. Did you want to discuss that?
Yeah, I can. We have to do income surveys on different groups of individuals for the area that a pre-applicant, and a pre-applicant would be someone who applies to regional planning saying, we are interested in this and we want to use the funds for this area and it's going to serve this group of people. And then once we've vetted out the pre-applicants, we would say, okay, we want to make sure your income surveys match. So they have to do an income survey on their block of people, and it's a certain amount and so many have to be done, and it's
So you
a
have to
random
get
draw.
75% of a village. Is that
It's
kind of the thing?
pretty close.
We
would say.
require 51% of your target population be low to moderate income for just to meet eligibility criteria.
Gotcha.
So it's not, and you can't pick and choose who's going to do the survey. We have to put the residents in and do a random poll, and then the community will go out and survey themselves. Regional planning will not facilitate that. So if it was, let's just say the Village of Republic, that's an easy one to use as an example. We would work with the village council to provide them the information to do the income surveys. We would be very willing to let the income surveys come back to regional planning as an independent reviewer, because as we know, our residents like to keep things private,
Right.
and they don't want their neighbor to know what their income is. So it makes them feel a little more secure that the survey comes back to regional planning and it doesn't go to their neighbor who's on the village council. So it could come back to us, and then we'll tally all that and let them know what their income survey equals.
Is it a name assigned with the survey, or is it an anonymous survey?
It's an address that's assigned to the survey. So if the names are chosen, whoever supplies the addresses for that community, say it's the auditor's office, if they supply, here's your target area, you need this many addresses. If the auditor's office supplies the addresses, they can choose to leave the names off, and it will just be an address that gets put into the database for randomization.
Do you have trouble having people, getting enough respondents?
Sure. I mean, you always have trouble because it is an income survey. So, just like Charlene said, people don't want to disclose this information. However, if you have really good support within your community and from your elected leaders, typically we see better response rates for that. So if you have something, it's going to be in the village and you have a certain amount of time, water bills, you can slip them in the water bills. If you have a certain amount of time leading up to before the income survey happens and you have the elected leaders, you guys yourselves are out there saying, hey, we understand how you feel about this. However, this is why it's needed, because in your community, this sewer main is flooding everywhere and it's no longer functionable. So we find if there's that support prior to the income survey being released, then there is a greater chance of that response rate.
Is there an alternative to use census data or
You can.
tax return data? Or
No
something
tax
like that?
return data. So you can use census data. It's from the ACS, or you can qualify by block group or census tract. Now, within the last 5 years or so, HUD has changed the way that they look at that data, and it has really skewed the results of a lot of communities. So some of those communities that you know for a fact are low to moderate income, over that 51% threshold, or they used to be identified as low to mod income automatically, are no longer that way. And they've redesigned the way that they look at the census blocks as well with that. So now it incorporates a lot of townships into an area. And that really skews the data if you're trying to do it in a small village or a certain part of town, because it has to meet that whole block group. And if that project doesn't benefit that whole block group, then you can't do the project. So there's some niches in there, but you can work it out.
Yeah, and that's what I found when I looked at the ACS, is that their survey was skewed compared to what our numbers really were.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we are representing our county appropriately with the income levels.
And we give communities 6 months to do the income surveys. So there's a long time.
From the time of
From the time you release the first survey or
Okay.
letter of saying this is what we're doing, from the time that first survey goes out to the time that you collect that last survey, you have a period of 6 months to get all of that information collected.
and how long is that survey good for? How many
A
cycles?
period of 5 years, depending on when the new ACS data comes out. So if you do an income survey and in 2 years the ACS data comes out, you'll have to do a new one.
What was
because
ACS?
American Community Survey. So it's just what they call, it's what HUD calls their statistics and, labor, Census Bureau.
Census data.
It's just
Okay.
a type of census data.
Is the ACS on a regular, like census data, done automatically every so many years, or no?
It's updated every 5 years,
It's done every
what
5
we
years.
receive. So
So
sometimes they're done like 2, 3, 5 years. The ones that we're receiving are done every 5 years.
So what's the next scheduled time for them?
The first info that we started using was in 14. So 5 years from 14 is when
19.
It will update.
So our data would be good for 2 years.
Do we have any communities that are done at this point?
Not at this point. We do need to update our communities. So
What was the last? Do you have any idea who was the last community?
I know that Bettsville is working with an independent consultant to do theirs, and they're in the process right now. And I know that Republic attempted, I think it was last year or the year before, to get theirs, but they did not meet the number, so they couldn't get it completed. And at that point, we're kind of at a stalemate.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
it's
Eureka
coming.
worked on theirs, but I believe that was either the year before 13, but my first year on board, or, because he was trying to get them all, and I can't remember now, they did that, and I don't remember now, but I remember him explaining how he went, but yet had the envelope being returned to regional planning, because same thing, he says, you know, they don't want to give it to me, and I get that, but the mayor himself was going door to door to try to get the last
Yeah, it
few
seems like it's
collected and that
urgent.
kind of stuff, so.
It's time consuming, but it requires the support, and we need that to be able to get the funds into our county. So what my plan is in regional planning will be that I will invite the commissioners, some township trustees, and the village administrators in, and we'll do an income survey training, and we'll get the information and determine who's going to be doing those and get those forms signed and get those into the state and start getting things percolating here within the next few weeks, because we need to get this part of the program rolling so that we know who we can work with and who we can't. So that's part one of the many parts of this lovely project.
So the proposed new cycle will coincide with the biennial budget? Is that? And,
Yes.
And do you have an idea of what funds will be available across the state?
Not yet. Since things are still kind of up in the air at the federal level, we have to wait because that's where we receive our funding. So once they go through, hopefully by March or April, we'll know exactly how much that each community will be receiving. And then we can put that out to you guys so you can plan for the application submission in June.
Historically, Seneca County was about an $80,000 a year allocation.
Okay.
So just looking at that, we held over 16 to 17, so there's 2 years. And then Elizabeth did communicate with me, and I forwarded that to the commissioners for you. But we were going to be in the 16, 17, 18 is what, you know, if everything passes, we will have 16, 17, and 18. So historically, looking at the $80,000 allocation, you would look at 240. Not saying that that's what's guaranteed by all means. That's just a rough, very, very rough estimate for me to use for planning. But off of that, you would have administrative fees that come off, which are 20% that come to us. So we're looking at around 190 best guesstimate that would be put back into our communities for the services. Part of the admin fees go into fair housing, also into planning, which would be part of the comprehensive land use plan or community development plan that we're working on. So that's how those work.
So the 80,000, where is that derived from? Is that a population number?
It's
or is
based
that
on population, amount of dollars, and amount of LMI people that you have in your community. So there's a formula or a calculation, if you will, that we do that determines, based on population LMI percentage in your county, what your county will receive. And overall low to moderate income percentage.
So you have a formula that uses LMI to determine how much we get, but we can't use that data to apply for the grant.
If it qualifies. So some communities do qualify. It's an overall. We look at the overall county population, not each individual community. So the ACS data that we have, that we supply to our grantees, is broken up by each individual community. And what you want to do is make sure that community that you're applying or intending to put these grant funds towards meets that 51% LMI population.
So if on a county basis as a whole, if our, I guess it would be more of an average, but if that LMI number isn't
That's okay.
51%, that county's likely to get a little less money maybe than other counties?
Maybe.
Is that I see what you're saying. You've got a figure to calculate that, but that figure isn't a word. But yet again, it's competitive, so for, you know, Village X to compete with Village Y and Township Z, you've got to prove your case, and so
Right.
if you've got a higher LMI, you're going to want to show that.
Right,
because you're
but-
gonna get more dollars.
Right, and I can understand what you're saying, but with our program and how HUD supplies us data for us to distribute funds to our grantees, it doesn't allow for you guys to submit different data than what we have. So the besides the initial data. So what we're saying is we understand it's skewed, and we understand you feel that some of your communities may be misrepresented. So we're giving you that opportunity to then go forward and say, okay, well, here's what the federal government is saying our communities are qualified as. We do not agree with that, and here's our proof. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that goes. It can't go into that overall big calculation because that's too much for everybody to take into account.
Yeah, yeah. And you gotta have something to start with to know how you're gonna divvy up the monies that come in.
Exactly.
So how much money is given out across the state? Do you have an idea what
Well, it depends.
2016 was?
So for the allocation program, I believe we had about approximately around 20 million to distribute between our competitive set aside program, which is, you know, different groups that you're not going to automatically receive that money. You have to compete for it. As opposed to our allocation program, which is us giving you the dollars, the commissioners, to do with it what you will. So I think it's probably, I would say you can maybe factor in something similar, hopefully. And half of it would go to competitive grants, half of it would go to each of our grantees to distribute throughout the entire state.
So if I hear you right, in 2016, rough numbers, you had $20 million budget, 10 million was allocation, but you don't have to do anything to get.
Well, you do.
You
You
do,
do.
but you don't have to.
You have to show up.
You have to show up, you have to meet the eligibility criteria, but we're not comparing applications.
Okay. And of that 10 million, we got 80.
Well, we didn't do 2016. We carried that over to 2017.
But you would have
But we would have.
received approximately $80,000 to distribute within the county.
Okay. And then there was another $10 million that was given on a competitive basis.
Correct.
And I'm going to explain some of that here in just a moment.
Okay. And can you just give me an idea of some of the projects that were funded in that $10 million? Just for my own
From the
edification?
competitive side,
Yeah.
so we have a couple different programs, if you will, that fall under that competitive section. We have a neighborhood revitalization program, which looks at specific neighborhoods, and you take multiple activities, multiple infrastructure activities, multiple, maybe it's a community service activity within that, so like sidewalk improvements, water line replacement, things like that, and you target one specific area. So you're doing multiple activities. That's $500,000 that we give for those. We have another program, it's a critical infrastructure program, and that's a one activity, one kind of project grant where if you have a lot of flooding in a specific area and you want to redo the drainage or the storm sewer going through that target area, it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole neighborhood. You can apply for that. And then we have a downtown.
How much is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's $300,000.
That's a critical infrastructure.
Critical infrastructure.
And what would you call the other one? Multiple.
It's
neighborhood
multiple. It's multiple projects wrapped up into one grant.
It's
It's a neighborhood revitalization.
Neighborhood revitalization.
Mhm. And then we have a downtown revitalization program that is also $300,000, and it looks at improving the downtown district. So you look at your building, the buildings that you have in your downtown, and you can do code enforcement projects with that. Anything that's building improvement related to your privately owned businesses downtown. So for instance, the city of Tiffin, which they received their own funds from us, separate from you guys, they received a downtown revitalization project, or grant, if you will, just this past year. So they are going forward, and you'll see a lot of construction work down there on the private buildings. So they'll be rehabbing those buildings, making the outsides look nice, making the insides up to code, things like that.
And I gave you a handout that's a PowerPoint from Fairfield County Regional Planning Commission that they provided to us during our training at the CDBG conference. And this is their little presentation that they gave us as a training on set aside funds that they've applied for and that they've received.
Right.
So I thought it would be nice for all of us to have that, just to see, how did it work? What did they do?
Right, and then in the packet that I distributed, there are a list of, there are some worksheets, if you will, the first few pages that kind of detail out the different programs that we have available.
So the downtown improvement, does that have to be privately owned buildings?
It's a private rehab project, yes.
That's how they applied for it.
So
Yes.
so government buildings.
Typically, unless it's an ADA project, no. So if you're improving a ramp out there and making the ramp up to code, then we couldn't do that. Or if you're making the bathroom ADA compliant, then no.
But if we were looking at a building that maybe a township or a village owned that was downtown, and under one of the other grants where it would become like the senior center or something like that, it was my understanding that those might fall into a portion of it.
Typically, we do not grant funds, and this is a HUD rule that if it is a building where government is conducted, then we do not put funds into that unless it's for some kind of ADA type project.
If it's a building that government is not conducted in, but they own it, though, it could be a potential project, correct?
Potentially.
Yes.
And there is a difference, I'm guessing that, like, the Tiffin is large enough population-wise, that's why they get their money separate from us.
Correct.
From the county. But so the rest, everybody else in the county, Fostoria is under our program.
Yes.
For the Seneca County portion.
Yes.
And then the villages and so forth, they would be under us, so if we could use competitive dollars, would a unincorporated village and or a incorporated village that has council in that's really not considered a downtown, they'd fall under neighborhood revitalization.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to have a central business district to apply for the downtown funds.
So would any of our villages even be, or is it a population thing?
No, it's not a population
okay,
thing.
okay. I thought maybe
But
we
you
would.
have to be able to justify to us, say you have one of your villages, and it might have a niche little downtown, but it might be small in population. You just have to show us and prove to us why this could be considered a downtown business district, a central business district within that village. So we have had villages apply to us, and they have received funding through the downtown program.
Okay.
But you have to make a strong case.
And that's where Elizabeth and I will be meeting later to talk about potential set-aside funds for Seneca County. Because there's already a couple projects on target that just conversations I've had with commissioners in separate and with some village residents in separate that look like they could be good projects. But I want to sit down with Elizabeth, pick her brain, let her pick my brain, and we're going to figure out if those are going to be really good qualifying projects or not. Have that good potential to qualify. If they do, then we're going to get some information out and talk about those a little further and move forward with the communities. So we wanted to look at that. Just to move forward, because I know time is of the essence, one of the key things for the CDBG grant is we have to do the CDIS, which is the Community Development Implementation Strategy. I handed out the timeline to you. It's January through June. This month is basically a get the word out that we have to do it month. So that's what we're talking about, is we are going to have to do this program. And what the CDIS does is it's an overall program where we meet with nonprofits, different county offices, the townships, the villages, stakeholders throughout our community to determine what the county feels are the priorities for the next, 4 or 5 years?
Nope, just the 2 years.
2 years, next 2 years. So we will then hold multiple public meetings regarding that and get information back and proposals on what the priorities are. Then those priorities will come to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners will choose the top priorities for the county.
So it's just
So-
an aid of a planning tool. It's just to aid in planning.
But we are required to have this done before we submit our allocation application.
Okay.
So what's great is that the Ohio Development Services Agency, or the ODSA, where Elizabeth works, is very willing to provide technical assistance and guidance on all of this. That's why Elizabeth is here today. They'll talk to me whenever I need them to. They'll come help with anything. And a lot of the forms and required documents are there for us to use. She has information for me today to take back. So we wanted to make the commissioners aware that this is one of the other things we're going to be doing in conjunction with working on the CDBG application, is that we are going to be doing the CDIS. So there will be times that I'm going to say, hey, we're going to have an evening meeting. It'll be publicized. We need you here for the CDIS meeting, and we're going to need active participation in that throughout the community.
Right, and the CDIS meeting, it's important to distinguish that it's really geared toward local officials and local leaders, or like your street departments or your nonprofit groups, as opposed to a citizen participation. While citizens are always welcome to come in, it's more about, hey, these are the things that we see as priorities based on the feedback that we're getting as local leaders from our citizens going forward. These are critical, these are not so critical, these are things that we need funding for and need help with. So it's more of a local government planning tool.
So this is getting implemented and it's new. Is that what
No,
I'm-
this is the CDBG timeline. This is the CDIS timeline right here.
I don't think.
This?
Yes, that is the CDIS timeline that we'll be
Okay,
working
so
on
this,
as well.
this is past practice?
No, this is.
It's a guide.
This is a guide for the CDBG grant allocation.
Okay.
So this pretty one here that has the nice blocks to it and gives you each month, this is our CDIS planning strategy that the state gave us.
I gotcha.
Then this other one that is multicolored rainbow, this is the proposed, in the past, this is what was used for the CDBG timeline.
Gotcha.
So the CDBG, which is the Community Development Block Grant, which is what we will apply for the allocation, this is our timeline on when things need to be done. So eventually when you walk into my office, you're going to see this timeline everywhere, because we're going to be holding heavy to it and making sure things are done, checking off what we're supposed to do. So there will be public hearings regarding the CDBG grant as well. So you're going to probably see for the next 6 months, I'm going to be everywhere doing everything. and hauling in some help probably as well. But we will be working steadily to get both of these done by the end of June. So we wanted the commissioners to be aware of both of these processes and both of the timelines, the involvement that's there, and what we have to do. The CDBG grant does require community participation. So our citizens have a right to participate in the planning process of that and to attend public hearings and be part of the process of determining the needs of our community on that project. So I wanted to make that aware to you as well. Just some of my notes too regarding the competitive set aside from our training. I just wanted to let you know that there's multiple projects that we could do under each one of the categories, and some of them require some stake in the game, put some skin in the game, have a little bit of contribution from the community. And it's always better when you have some contribution from the community as well, financial or some fundraising that's been done, because when I take that to the ODSA for an application for competitive, they're going to look at the fact that there was a little bit more funds put in this, that they don't have to fund the whole project, and they look more favorably upon those projects. So those are always things we need to take into consideration as well when we're talking about this, that we need to have those contributing funds to go towards the projects. So we're going to be looking at who has funds to contribute, who doesn't, how could they maybe raise some funds to contribute, what could they do to move forward if a couple of these set-aside projects come to fruition. So we're
And I
going
know when we evaluated them in the past, the couple of years that we've done them here, I know we would, as it brought to us, kind of the final projects and ranking them, we looked at that because we knew it determined on how they got rated thereafter. But also we could go back to some of them and say, now if you don't get all the money you're looking at, are you going to do any of the project or none of the project? Yeah, we would be able to do it. Okay, that helped us to evaluate them and rank them. And some of them would say, absolutely not. If we don't get it all, we aren't doing any of it because we don't have, that's that little bit we're putting in there, that's all we would have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we kind of have a chance to do a little more investigation within the communities once we get to the final ones brought to us.
Right.
At least that's how we did in the past.
And that's probably how it'll work a little bit as well. So we understand the community development block grant. The county receives the funds. Regional planning helps facilitate those funds for the county. We are contracted with the county to do these services. And part of the grant application process, as I like to call it, is that we get pre-applications from our community. So if, I always say Village of Republic just because it's close to home, but if the Village of Republic came in and said, Charlene, we want to do a project and here's what it is, I would say, okay, here's the pre-application form, please fill this out. If it was under the community development block grant itself. If it was coming for set aside, that'd be a whole nother avenue that we would look at. So let's say that the city of Fostoria comes to me and says, we want to do some new curbing along one of the roads that we're putting in. Could we use CDBG funds for that? Potential. You have to fill out the pre-application. They fill out the pre-application and turn those in by a specified period. Then our steering committee will review those pre-applications and make the determination on who ranks out the highest. And then those are who we would submit for our allocation application.
Are we still required, as we were in the past, when they combined Fostoria with us? I don't think that happened.
How long ago did they combine Fostoria?
It happened while I was here, so somewhere in the past 4 years. But we were required to make sure one project was a Fostoria project.
So-
That's still,
I'll have to go double check and see if that's still on there. I think if it's been since, I think we're only doing 15, 16, and 17. I think those are the only required ones, but don't quote on that. I can definitely double check that information and get it to Charlene to see if you guys have to. But some of those are phasing out because I think once you combine them, you only have to do it for a few years. You're only required to do it.
so they
for
may have
years.
their own, is what you're saying?
No, you may not be required to spend money.
To make sure we, okay.
You
Yeah, I
may
know
not
that- I
have
know in
to.
the first, yeah, maybe that's what it was. Now it kind of comes back to me.
Yeah.
I just remember we had to make sure we had, which was no problem. They did a good job of submitting options
Yeah.
for projects. It wasn't a matter of we left money on the table.
Nope.
They had projects that, worked, so.
Yeah. I'll have to verify that timing, but you may be cleared of that requirement now.
Okay.
And then it'll be great to hear that information back from Elizabeth and she'll communicate it. Just to give you some idea on what they told us at training for the set-aside funds and how competitive it really is. In 2016, they had 13 that applied. 7 of those were awarded. The most difficult to be put together from my notes. And that we have to do some surveying of properties if needed. And that was for the critical infrastructure. There were other ones that my notes are really all over the place when I did this at the training, right? Because I knew what they were. But that's just kind of an idea to know that, hey, on critical infrastructure, it was very competitive. Just a little over half got the funding. Not everybody gets funding. So I don't say, we're definitely going to get set aside funds. I would say it would be in our best interest to look at what projects we could do and get some more funds in to help our community.
Is the competitive dollars, is that follow the same cycle as the CDBG program?
Yes,
So
it
it'll
will follow
be
your same cycle.
every 2 years?
Except for the competitive, or goodness gracious, except for the critical infrastructure. Along with the proposition that we have the allocation become a 2-year cycle, we are proposing that the allocation become an open cycle, which none of this is, we haven't got
Right.
official approval.
Yeah.
But with that will be open to all grantees during the year on all program years. So if you receive funding in 17, you're only able to apply for the neighborhood revitalization grant as well as the downtown revitalization grant on the year that you receive allocation. But you will be able to apply for the critical infrastructure every year, a few times. So currently we have it, you can only apply once a year. Everybody only applies once a year. If you're out, you're out. Well, we're proposing to change that because we know critical projects, you can't be waiting around until the next year.
It's critical, you can't wait 5 years for that.
And our grant process to get that grant agreement and then the environmental review done, it takes a little bit of time. So that puts it back even further and further. So our hope is to approve this as an open cycle where you can apply. If you don't get funded this round, you can revamp your application and submit the next round. So you have multiple opportunities throughout the year to work with that program.
So hopefully we reached a good goal with you guys today and put out some good information with you. We all know that I like to make sure everybody understands the processes that are going to be coming forward and knows what our workloads are. So this was to inform the county commissioners and the general public that this is what's coming, this is what we're going to be starting on, and it was really wonderful to have Elizabeth come down and explain this information to us even in such great detail. So if you have any further
I just want to have one more question. So what actually is the process after we submitted a qualifying application for the set aside? What is the actual process? Is there a committee? Is there a scorecard?
So what we will do is you as the grantee will submit the application to us in June, and we will look at a ton of different things. So what we look at is, it's outlined in our plan that is published for everyone to read. It's kind of how we require you to have a citizen participation plan. This is our citizen participation plan and how we review and how we qualify projects and rate projects. So what we do is we look at, different criteria within that. Does it meet the eligibility? Example for the critical infrastructure. How critical is the project? Is it in critical need, or is the infrastructure in poor condition? Different things like that. And then what we do is we compare that to other critical infrastructures. How much leverage you have. Is the area defined correctly? And how many people it will benefit. So we look at all of those things with all of the competitive programs, and we compare critical infrastructure to critical infrastructure, neighborhood revitalization to neighborhood revitalization among the people who have submitted, and then we select the best from there. So
Are
it's
the
similar
dollars
to
allocated by project? So this year we're going to put $2 million in downtown development. This year we're going to put.
No.
So there's just one.
It's one big pot of money.
$10 million pot.
Yes.
And so if Republic has a project and it's a downtown improvement project, then they will be compared to critical infrastructure projects?
They will only be compared to other downtown projects, but
You may not choose to fund downtown projects?
we may not, depending on the quality of the projects that come in. We may not feel that any of those meet that criteria where they are funded. So we may not. We may have 7 downtown projects come in. We may pick 2. We may have 25 neighborhood revitalization grants come in. We may pick 15. Similar for the critical infrastructure. So what we're doing is we're looking at them together, we're looking at each within its own program, but the funding is just one big pot of money.
Okay. And then is there a committee? So
Yeah, so
who's on that committee?
it's the representatives, so it's myself plus the Ohio is broken down into program reps or field reps, just like me. So there's 5 of us, and it's us. We get together as a group. We look at the projects that are submitted to us with our supervisor, and we talk about it as a group. We go through a similar process that you guys would go through when you're rating, and you have a committee together. And what we do is we select the projects we feel best, would be best move forward, and then we have to go to our leadership and present our case and say, this is why we feel these projects would be, should be funded. Similar to, she comes to you guys and says, this is what we want to fund, and, you take that into consideration.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question. On the bottom of this CDIS sheet, just curious, it says the CDIS process is required every odd year starting in fiscal 2015. In even year starting in fiscal 2016, community should follow. So where are we? And
We need to do it for this grant
Right.
application.
Okay.
So you'll do it every 2
So
years.
once we do it in 17, we then will be on the odd year cycle in every
You won't do
odd
it
year.
until 19.
It was just a little confusing.
Yeah.
It is. That's why it's a great question.
Well, and it was set up a little differently because we're proposing the 2-year cycle. It's going to be less confusing, whereas that was during the odd year. It was every year when people were getting their allocation. So some of that will be a little bit smoother now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
you.
coming.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. That's very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys
you.
don't need to stick around.
I
all
do.
all the fun's done.
I get to stick around a little longer.
Okay, old business.
All business.
Any update on the Justice Center? Anybody?
I can just, from my printing the report, the January 19th report was up, and like I said, it's now a little easier because there's stuff to see.
Yeah,
You can
exciting.
see it yourselves. But some cool pictures on the report. This is posted to our site.
So
Stairwell
those
shafts.
Gilbane reports, we're posting them to our website
Yep.
each week. So any citizen that wants to know exactly the status and what's coming can look there.
Yep.
And that's www.
www.
You have that?
Seneca-county.com.
That would be good to know.
Yeah, so, but anyway, exciting things happening, and we have a leadership team meeting Thursday.
Yes.
That'd be the update.
Other old business.
Could be old or new, whichever, some of the other update things that I added.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the CC?
Yeah.
Is that old business? Sure.
It's, I guess it's the first I talked about, I guess it's sort of new, but
Okay, let's
Um,
move to new business. No old business.
I accepted a 1-year appointment to the County Commissioners Association of Ohio Board of Directors. And the first board meeting, the reorganizational meeting, was Friday. That group meets, like I said, once a month. And they provided, not that it's not available otherwise to us, so there was extra copies, so I grabbed one for you and Mike. The committee assignments from the 132nd General Assembly leadership. CCAO is a predominant, as the County Commissioners Association of Ohio, lobbying group for the counties and looking out for our best interest out there. They do the reappointment every year of committee assignments. So if there's any particular committees, anybody, we are members, either you or Mike want to be on, you could do that as well. We talked about just, the current policy update, they go through that process. Talk about every 2 years they do a legislative update meeting. So they're working on those dates, and they're gonna do them by the Senate districts. So by Senator Burke's districts, which is many counties, there'll be a meeting somewhere in that district that we'll be invited to go to, and they try to time that so that the representatives, which will be more than one, and the senator are available to be there for that meeting. It's usually a half-day meeting, so that'll be coming up. So that's kind of the gist of that, but it's interesting to be able to be there. You learn from these other counties and discuss the current policies and where things stand, and the concern of the Medicare, elimination of Medicare tax portions that come to counties. That was a big part of the discussion, things like that. So
Good.
that's that info.
Other new business, board meeting has been, do we want to touch on that for Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday's meeting, our quarterly night meeting, we were going to target a township, originally announced the Loudon Township, and then we heard the potential of getting Attorney General Mike DeWine. He's gonna be in the area that we extended an invite. Would he want to come back to our meeting and provide any form of an update or things since the opiate epidemic, I guess, status or qualifier came into play for us a month ago. And just yesterday heard that he's planning to be able to attend. So in potentialness of him coming, we decided we needed to be in a facility that could house a bigger group of people coming to potentially our meeting that night, as well as the Ohio Township Association's annual meeting is going on, and some of the Loudon Township trustees would not be around, not that they have to attend, but, so we're at the Public Safety Building now for our meeting.
At what time?
7.
7,
Yeah.
Thursday, public safety.
Yes.
Excellent.
And then the other quick announcements I had from Foster Ray's Economic Development meeting, aside from a lot of things going on, like SIDEC, and projects and so forth, not gonna hit all of those, but their annual meeting is coming up, April 20th. They always do a breakfast meeting that, we're all invited to. CIDEX annual meeting that one's April 20th. CIDEX is March 23rd. And then the representative from Vanguard Sentinel Schools shared that they have their open houses coming up in February as well. I don't know if they're both on the same day. I wrote down February 7th, 5 to 7. And I don't know if they do it on the same day for both campuses, for Vanguard and Sentinel, for the Tiffin and for Fremont or not, but I want to just pass those things along.
Did you want to update on homeless
Yep.
coalition?
I am a member of the Seneca County Homelessness Coalition, and we wanted to just give you a little bit of a brief update of what's going on right now. The key thing to know is that the national point in time count, and the national point in time count is set up by HUD, and that point in time count stands for an actual time when homelessness is counted. So actual homeless people are counted. They go out on the streets, they go out into the woods, we have volunteers who go out and count who is homeless. The point in time count starts tonight at 8:00 p.m. and will end tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So what does that mean for Seneca County? That means that there will be several volunteers driving around all night long, checking in churches, checking in doorways, checking in the woods, checking in abandoned buildings, checking everywhere they possibly can to get information on our homelessness population. I participated in the point in time count last year for Seneca County. It's a very daunting task. It took the whole day, and I only covered one area of Seneca County. I had someone with me as well, because you don't want to do that by yourself, because you never know what you may encounter for safety purposes. And we did a lot of the parks. We did a lot of the junkyards, believe it or not, looking in the woods. And you would think, it's really easy to tell if someone's homeless or not, and it's not that easy to tell. In our area, we're very rural, so we would figure, okay, during the day it's easier to spot, because if they're in the woods, you might see smoke from a fire, right? Because they would be trying to keep themselves warm. At night, we're not going to be able to see that. So the volunteers are going to be doing things a little bit differently. And one of the requirements to make that homelessness person count towards the point in time count is that they have to work with the volunteer to fill out an information sheet. So they can't just say, I saw this homeless person, and that person count. They actually have to do a survey with them. So if not every homeless person that is seen accepts doing a survey, then we will not get a true count. It does extend a little bit of time for like the Salvation Army to meet with their people, and as well as some other nonprofits. But the actual physical count will be tonight at say 8 a.m. until 6 a.m. So for residents of Seneca County, if you see a vehicle driving around going slowly past your farm or your woods, or maybe there's an abandoned building or home nearby you, if you see someone stopping there, don't be too alarmed. It's someone doing a point in time count, and it is a necessary factor for Seneca County. If we have good numbers, even though we don't want good numbers, but if we have good counts on our numbers of the homelessness, that then interprets into better funding for Seneca County's homelessness population, which then helps us aid in those homeless people becoming housed. So this is the federal way of determining what we have available. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Do you know what our
what's okay.
stats were for last year?
I think we had about, and don't quote me on this because I don't have the number in front of me, but I thought we had 18 total at the time of count.
It's done annually.
Yes, annually. It is done annually. And last year, I had the great distinction that I worked for WSOS at that time and worked in their supportive services for veterans program, so help house homeless veterans. So we were able to do some personal point counts with those people that we were encountering as we were doing casework with them as well. So that was nice too. But last year, we didn't have to have forms filled out. Last year, it was I can see it, I can tell they're homeless, we count them. This year, you have to have a form filled out for each one of them. So that's going to probably skew our numbers a little bit. There's concern, but we have that happening. So I wanted to make sure the commissioners and the general public was aware that that's taking place.
Good to know, I didn't know how that worked, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, you do the,
The only other thing I did, you mentioned board session, do you still probably need to see the need to have a meeting on the 31st? You had sent me an email the other day.
Yes, yeah, I would like to, if we can have, I don't know, we don't need to call it special. I think if we got the
It's
distinction
just
by
a
the ORC, just
additional-
an additional board meeting on, because we want to do an update on things for Wolf Creek
okay,
and working with Mark Zimmerman as the engineer, and Beth Deach has assisted us with that from Soil Conservation Service. They requested that we have all three of us. They said, we'd like to do this one that's a
What
board
is
with all
that?
three commissioners present. And I said, and I would like, since I've been working on this from our perspective, both of you to be available. And that is, otherwise we're gonna be February before, between their schedules and ours could make it work. So
that's
hope-
next Tuesday?
So I'd like next Tuesday if we can do a meeting at 10 on Tuesday.
Okay,
Because you're training that following week.
right,
And so that, then puts us back to the 9th of February, so we wanted to get moving, or, to announce the timeline, we perceive, because we've already received the bids, and we have to award the contract
okay,
for the engineering work, is what we're getting ready to do. So, we're ready to make that happen, so if we
Can
can
you
have
check
a
with
meeting.
Mike?
Yeah, I don't know if you've communicated to Mike, I just sent her the requests earlier in the week or end of last week or something, saying I foresee us needing that meeting if we can. So if it works, that we can, all three of us can
okay,
be here on
I'll
that.
confirm after the meeting with, if you
Okay.
check with Mike,
So that'd be the
31st.
31st,
a week from today.
week from today, 31st 10, if it works.
Ready for new business then? More new business, I guess.
The rest of your new business?
Resolutions. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation to the general fund. This is putting $110,000 into contract services. This is for the airport. These are rolling over the contracts from 2016. We can't carry over purchase orders or certs between years, so what we have to do at the end of 2016 is close the purchase order with a project that's still open and reopen it. So once she got once Tanya got all the bills finalized, what would end her 2016, she was able to calculate, put in 2017. So that's what this is for. It's not a new project. It's just finishing the old projects we have in place. I have a decrease of permanent appropriations for the general fund. Total reduction, $10,112. This is into the museum line. When we did the budgets for the museum, because we hadn't done budgets in so long, we used to pull hospitalization and workers' comp out of each individual line for the general fund. What we did a few years ago was we put one account line for all of general fund and one account line because it's easier for payroll purposes, different things. And hospitalization, it was easier for us and the auditor's office to calculate it out of the one line. So when we added the museums back into the budget, those lines were put in there. So what we're doing is just reducing those. Those will get moved to the appropriate lines that we have for the museum.
So, in the future,
Those would be separated. Yep.
It'd be all in the-
Yep. When I pulled up my old sheets, they were just still from when the museum was here before and had those lines in it, and it just calculated. Those are an automatic calculation in the formula, so those have already been removed in anticipation for next year's budget. So
okay.
I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation to the concealed carry license fund. This is the sheriff's fund for an additional $1,000 in supplies. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations to the county sewer district fund, putting $35,481.58 into it looks like there are transfers out from the USDA loan grant debt service. Is that correct? I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation to the ambulance service fund. They're putting $1,500 into equipment. We did have a lightning claim at the end of August 2016, and which took out some of the audiovisual equipment that's downstairs in the training room, along with some EOC stuff. They're trying to get some of that replaced. Obviously, we don't get the full cost of new equipment that's coming in, so we're using part of it for out of our insurance line. But they wanted to do a specific upgrade to the device downstairs that the insurance obviously wouldn't cover, because that wasn't what was damaged.
Sure.
But, so, that was the additional they're pulling out. We have also an appropriation adjustment within the M&R fund. The engineer's requesting moving $500 from expenses to utilities. And yeah, there's two it's the same resolution, so museums was on there twice. So I'm gonna skip that one. And I have a resolution authorizing a contract service agreement with Crawford County Board of Commissioners for the receipt, custody, and care of Crawford County juveniles on behalf of the Seneca County Youth Center for 2017. A resolution authorizing an amendment to the contract with R.J. Runge Company for the prosecutor's office renovation. This was one of the alternates that we needed to do some research. When we got the bids in, there was a big difference between the two estimates that we received. We got confirmation from both companies that verified their amount, and R.J. Runge was lower, because it's significantly lower. So Tanya was recommending doing the addition floor, or alternate 4 for the LED lighting for the prosecutor's office.
I was gonna say, which, yeah.
So the total contract for them is $133,000?
Yep.
Is that what I'm
And
reading here?
the additional for alternate 4 was, I think you have the contract down there. I think I want to say 11, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And this is the renovation of the first floor of the former Fifth Third
Yes.
Bank, which will be prosecutor and
Victims assistance.
victim assistance.
Yep.
Does that include any second floor renovations on
No.
that side?
Nope.
And they've commenced that work?
Yes. Yep. You can probably go over there anytime. I think they're still over there, and they've been
Okay.
working diligently. So, John gave us a little update the other day and said it was looking pretty good. So, last resolution, I have a resolution appointing Jason Painter to the Seneca Regional Planning Commission Board for a 1-year term commencing January 1st, 2017, and expiring December 31st, 2017, finishing the term of Bill Frankert. And those are all the resolutions I have.
Any discussion on the resolutions?
I'll move to approve.
Second? All those in favor?
Oh, she'll do a roll call.
Roll.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuchar?
All right. Public comments? Questions? Yes.
Loretta Miller, Tiffin, Ohio. Back on the time capsule discussion, I'm concerned about all the electronic things being included. Just thinking on what has happened electronically in the last 50 years and the availability of technology to access what's stored on floppy disks. You know, that's less than 50 years ago, and is the equipment available now usable to retrieve information on those? Does something need to be put into the capsule area or the museum that would be operable in 50 years to retrieve the information?
Yeah, that was a lot of discussion we had, and we mentioned the fact that what will transpire in 50 years with technology is so unpredictable. And Dr. Bing talked about something he read, I forget the name of the publication, about the future, and they said half of what they predicted was right, and half of what they predicted didn't come to fruition. So they said we can't guess that, so that's why we want a kind of a mix, but we figured some of the material to be able, because of space, doing the thumb drive will get more in, and we're just gonna keep the fingers crossed that some way, somehow, like if somebody handed us an 8-track right now, we'd find somewhere to somebody to play it. Somebody hands me 8mm film, I can get somebody to transfer that to current media for viewing and that kind of thing. But it'll be the challenge that somebody will have at that point in time, but we have no way of knowing what it will be, and if we knew what it would be, we wouldn't have that means to which to store it that way anyway, because we spent a lot of time discussing exactly that. So we decided we'd go with the most current economical thing that worked, and that would probably be the thumb drives or external hard drive versus a floppy now kind of a thing, as best guess of what works. Because that's a challenge, but we're looking for it to be part of the in 50 years. But good point, yeah.
Okay, but could the museum be tasked with preserving the equipment?
The mechanism, it could be an item to bring up for discussion with them, yeah. That's possible.
Just thinking.
Yeah, I know, because it's like, how do you know, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
If we can predict the future, we'll all be very wealthy, right?
It'll be.
Other citizens' comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
11:05.